Hi there, I'm Sune from Code and we are back with some more Tuesday tips. And this week we're going to talk about when to automate KPIs. But first we need to understand the KPI process and more specifically the KPI reporting part of the process. So that is the part that comes after you've defined all your KPIs and when you know what you want. So the first thing we need to do is to collect some data. And we can do that either automatically or manually. So that would be that if we have an event and we want to know how many participants there were at this event, then we might calculate it manually by counting the number of participants. And after that, we need to extract the data from the place where we collected it so that we can process it, which is the third part down here. And the processing means that we probably need to do some stuff to this data. We need to calculate some things, we need to maybe remove some bits, and we might also need to add some timestamps, for instance. When all that is done, then we need to visualize it. And that could be that we create a graph or a gauge or make some numbers in a table or what have you to show this KPI. And when that is done, we need to distribute it. And we do that either by sending an email, printing a report, hanging a dashboard on the wall that updates automatically or what have you. And all these 5 steps in the KPI reporting can be done either automatically or manually, usually. But the things that we need to focus on, or that we want to focus on in this video, is the extraction part and the processing part. So, with that in mind, what do we need to consider when we want to automate the KPIs? The first thing we need to consider is what is the costs of the manual updates? And that is roughly calculated by taking the update frequency and multiplied by the cost per update. And the cost of the update frequency is how often we want this KPI, or we want the data from the KPI in a report of some sorts. And the cost per update, that is add up from maybe we need a specialist for this, maybe we need to use a lot of hours to calculate it, and what have you. So that is the total costs per update. Now, after we consider that, we need to look at the risks that is involved in doing this manual processing of the data. And there's always a risk of miscalculations and errors like that in the data set. So that risk increases with the complexity. So that means if you have very complex KPI with a lot of steps that needs to be done manually, then the risk of something going wrong is pretty high, and that will lead to some wrong KPIs or wrong data. On the other hand, we have the impact. So that would be the impact of this KPI. So if, for instance, we have a train and we count the number of passengers, then we might count a person 2 times and we might miss a person or something like that. But with 300 passengers in the train, that doesn't matter too much because we're looking at a more overall picture. But in the case of some like some revenue KPIs or any other financial KPIs, then the impact might be pretty high. And if that KPI is complex as well, then we might end up in the red zone over here, which means that we should probably consider doing it automatically. The last thing we need to consider is what is the cost of automation? And that will be divided into 2 categories. One category is if we have an existing integration from the place we collect the data to the place we visualize the data. So that might have a price, and usually there's a price when you want to connect one system to another system. We might also need to spend some time of setting this up, and that should also be considered, and that should be considered a part of the automation costs. Now, on the other hand, if there is no integration already, then we need to develop one, or we need to hire a consultant or a developer to develop one that we could use. And when doing that, we need to consider, is the data accessible, and how easy is it to access the data that we need. And after that comes the complexity. is it a very complex task to transform the data we have from the state it is in to the state we need for the KPIs. Then that might also add to the time spent on this new integration, which means that the cost will be higher. So those are the things that we think you should consider when you consider to doing some KPIs automatically. If you like this video, please give it a like and consider sharing it with your colleagues and friends. Thanks for watching.